Hello, I am Nurhani Nabila binti Haji Kamar Zaman, ID 24064. So today I would like to present about software requirement system, which includes ATM and CDM. So the introduction of SRS is what the software will do and how it will be expected to perform. This includes ATM and CDM. And SRS also minimize the time and effort required by developers to achieve desired goals and minimize the development costs. ATM provide financial institution customer a secure method of performing financial transaction in a public space without the need for a human bank teller. Next, SRS show how an application will interact with system hardware, other programs, and human users in a wide variety of real-world situations. Through ATM, customers interact with a user-friendly interface that enables them to access their bank accounts and perform various transactions. Right, move on to the purpose of the SRS is to define external interface, performance, and software system attributes requirement of ATM and CDM. Okay, this document is intended for the following group of people, which is developers, management of the bank, document writers, and testers. The scope is that this facilitates the user to perform various transactions in his account without going to the bank. Offer benefits such as withdrawals, balance transfer, deposit, inquiries, credit card advances, and other banking related operations for customers. Takes as input the login ID and the bank account number of the user for login purposes. Output the comprise of an interactive display that lets the user select the desirable function that he wants to perform. Product perspective, here we have three: user interface, hardware interface, and communication interface. As user interface, this is all the interface needed in this system. As for hardware interface, this is all the interface needed in the system. And as for communication interface, this is the points that needed in the system. Move on to the product features, which consists of 1. Remote banking and account management, validity checks, sequencing information, error handling, response to abnormal situation, and receipt generation. And next, the user characteristic, we have 3, which is the user A, a novice ATM customer, user B is an experienced customer, and the last user characteristic is from the maintenance personnel.
Hello, my name is Joseph Mabor. I'm going to present about specific requirements, which in this case is for requirement for graphical user interface, and then I will talk about performance requirements, and then also talk a little bit about the constraints of the system. Yeah, so for the graphical user interface, you will have like startup interface where, for example, ATM operator will be able to start up to turn on the ATM and also to shut down the ATM. So there should be buttons, and also we should have verification interface, for example, where the user can put the card, the ATM card, and then the ATM can verify the user. And then we should have a withdrawal interface, cash deposit interface, transfer interface. For example, the withdrawal interface here would have like saving accounts and current accounts, so they can choose. For the performance requirements, we need the ATM to be able to serve about 1,000 connections, like to the bank server, like for example, the bank, the back end should be able to support 1,000 customers, like communicating with the ATM. And then also the average response should be 3 seconds, less than 3 seconds. And the system attributes here are like some constraints. For example, the accuracy, it should be very accurate, like 0.000.1. Like this is very critical, and it has to be be taken care of. So there should be less errors. And then the security should be secured, and then the currency should be in Malaysian ringgit, and then the language, supported language would be English and Bahasa Melayu. And also the banking protocols, usually it's going to accept or they approve banking protocol standards. For example, the bank card, which is like ATM card, or maybe some electronic tokens. So these are the allowed banking protocol. Yeah, so this is it for me. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Lagindran and I'm going to explain about the functional requirements of the ATM system. So I'm going to explain the functional requirements in a form of a use case. So this is the use case. It consists of two different actors. One is the operator and one is the user. So the operator handles two use cases. One is startup and one is shutdown. And the user are the main actor of the system, which handles the session verification and which includes transaction menu, extends up to withdrawal, cash deposit, transfer, and balance inquiry. So the first use case is startup. It is handled by the operator. So it's basically to allow operators to turn on the ATM after the maintenance. And the trigger is the operator to turn on the power switch of the ATM. So the precondition, it should be the ATM must be in a power off state, and the rules, the input must be a valid integer. So the second use case is shutdown. This is to allow operators to turn off the ATM before maintenance. So it will be handled by an operator. So the trigger is basically operator turn off the power switch of the ATM, and the precondition is ATM in the idle state, and the rules are system must be in idle state to turn off. So the third use case is session verification, and the purpose is allow users to verify the session and perform transaction in the ATM. The actor is user, and the trigger is users insert the card and enters the valid 6-digit PIN number. The precondition is ATM in idle state, and the rules are users enters valid ATM card and 6-digit PIN number. So for the withdrawal, the purpose is allow users to perform withdrawals. The actor is user, and the trigger is user selects the withdrawal option. The precondition is the ATM must be in an idle state and in transaction menu. And the rules is the withdrawal limit is set to 500 by default, and the withdrawal amount must be RM10, 20, 50, and 100. And for the cash deposit, if it allows users to perform a cash deposit, the actor is a user, and the user's trigger is the user selects the cash deposit option in the transaction menu. The precondition is ATM in the transaction menu. The rule says the minimum deposit amount is RM10. For the transfer is allow users to perform amount transferring, and the actor is user. Trigger is user selects the transfer option in the transaction menu. Precondition is ATM in the transaction menu. So the minimum the rules is the minimum transfer amount is at least RM1. Finally, the balance inquiry, which allows users to check balance. The actor is user. The trigger is user selects the balance inquiry in the transaction menu.
Hello, my name is Hari Sarish. Today I'll be presenting on the software design specification for the automated teller machine system and the cash deposit machine. So today I'll be covering the introduction and the system considerations. So for the purpose of this document is to give a better understanding of the design process. It will provide a detailed design implementation of the ATM, which also includes the cash deposit machine. So this document will contain information about the system consideration, system architecture, low-level design, as well as the high-level design. The intended audience is Dr. Yu and any of his associates. So the main functions of this automated ATM and the CDM is to allow users to deposit, withdraw, inquire, and transfer money to or from their accounts. Next is the system consideration. So for the assumption and dependencies, all the ATM must be embedded with a LAN cable. This is for ATMs to be able to connect to their bank servers all the time. And the CDM the cash deposit machine shall also incorporate hardware to calculate cash, such as paper notes. This is to calculate if the user is providing the correct amount of cash notes. Next, for our end user characteristics, based on our study, we have focused on three main characteristics, which is the bank operator, the bank security surveillance, and the user. These three are our main users, and the user that will be, and the person that will, the role that will be most frequent in use is the user, because they will be using the machine most of the time. And these are their description and their required knowledge on how to operate the system. So next is the general constraints. My team is building this application on using Java application. So all the environment that the system is placed should be able to enable Java software, and it also should be able to perform transactions while having active connection. That means the system should be able to perform multiple connections, multiple parallel applications, and none of the connections should collide with each other. The money inside the machine should also always be sufficient for the users to dispense, and the system needs to be very secure from misuse and hackers. These are the goals and guidelines. As I said, system must be secure from misuse and hackers, and the system shall also have a safety precaution when it is being hacked. So if any malicious activity is activated, the system shall automatically, for example, contact local authorities.
Hi, my name is Kinesh Kesavan, student ID 23326. Today I'll be presenting to you about the system architecture of ATM and CDM. So as you can see the diagram in the slide, so we showed the system architecture of ATM and CDM. So it consists of two layers of classes. The top level classes are ATM main and ATM app. Both classes allow the system to run as an application. Only one of two will be initiated in any particular use of the system. Each of these classes in turn depends on the package ATM, which consists of the class ATM that represent the system as a whole, and the class session that represent one session. ATM depends on the session and vice versa, since the ATM creates session and each session in turn use the ATM to interact with the customer. So as you can see, the sub-packages transaction contains the classes used to represent individual transaction that customers initiate. For example, there's transaction, withdrawal, deposit, transfer, and inquiry. And as you can see, the sub-packager physically contains the classes that represent the various physical component of the ATM. For example, we have card reader, cash dispenser, customer console, envelope acceptor, log, and operator panel, and receipt printer. And moving on to the subsystem of ATM. So as I mentioned earlier, the physical subsystem of ATM, we have operator panel and so on, and they have their own task. For example, for operator panel, they will have a task like inform ATM of changes of state of switch. For ATM, it start up when switch is turned on or shut down when the switch is turned off by the operator. Cash dispenser, keep track of cash on hand starting with initial amount. Customer console, display a message. Card reader, inform ATM when card is inserted or eject the card. Log is log storage account information of customer. Receipt represent information to be printed on a receipt. And receipt printer, print a receipt. Envelope acceptor, accept envelope from customer. Report if time out or cancelled. So these are the tasks that the subsystem of ATM and CDM. So as you can see, now we are moving on to the startup process. Here we show the sequence diagram and component diagram for the startup process and also for the shutdown. You can see how the sequence diagram and component diagram for the shutdown. And moving on to the withdrawal, the process of withdrawal we showed as in communication diagram and also in component diagram. Same for the deposit and also same for the transfer. Last but not least, also for the balance inquiry, we showed through all the processes through communication diagram and component diagram. So these are from me. Thank you.
My name is Daniel bin Abdul Rahman, and I'm going to present about system state charts for ATMS and CDM. So we start with the first state, which is the startup. So the first state is the off state, where it displays the message as not available. If it goes to the second state, which is the idle state, it will display the message as please insert the card. So the second state diagram, which is the shutdown, is a reverse from the first one, where the first state is the idle state, and the second one is the off state, where it displays the message as not available. And the third diagram is the session verification. The first state is the where the machine validate the card. If the card is valid, it will go to the next stage, or if not, if invalid, it will eject the card. And the second state is the reading pin, where the user have to key in the pin. If all is okay, it will go to the choosing transaction, where the user need to choose what kind of transaction they need to choose. And then we'll proceed with the next state, which is the performing transaction, where the system will perform any transaction that is chosen. And then the user have an option to continue the transaction or eject the card. And the last state is the ejecting the card. So we proceed with the next state diagram, which is the withdrawal. So the first one is where the user choose the transaction. In this case, it's a withdrawal transaction. After that, the user have to choose which account they want to try to withdraw from, and then it will go to the next state, which is getting the amount. The user have to key in the amount, and after that, the fourth state, the system will check the balance. If insufficient, it will go that straight to the state 6, or if balance okay, it will go to the printing the receipt. After that, it will go straight to the ejecting the card, and then the state is finished. Next is the deposit state diagram, where the after the user select the transaction as deposit, they need to select the account. If after that, they will request a deposit amount, like the user have to key in the deposit amount. After that, they need to insert the envelope, the money envelope, and continue with the fifth state. The system will print the receipt and continue with the requesting new transaction. If the user want to request new transaction, it will go back to the selecting account, or they can eject the card. Next is the transfer state diagram. After the user choose the transaction type transfer, they need to choose the from account, and after that they need to choose the to account, like the account number of the person receiving the money, and then next they need to put the reading amount value. The system will validate the reading amount value. After that, it will perform the transaction and will ask the user to continue the transaction or cancel the transaction. And lastly is the balance inquiry, where user choose the transaction as balance inquiry. After they choose that transaction, the system will prompt what account type to choose, and after that they will perform. It will ask the user to perform next transaction or cancel it, and after that it will eject the card. Subsequently, each transaction from all the state they can cancel anytime. So thank you.